Well, hello there, my friends. How's everybody doing?
Hey, come here.
No, he seems friendly. Yeah, so we're in the middle of August now, and heat warnings for the rest of this week, like into the 40s with the humidex, and already it is starting to cook out here. So the weather dictates so much in all of our lives. I know that. But I wanted to talk today a little bit about climate change. Okay, maybe you don't believe in climate change. Or maybe you believe that the climate is sort of like cyclical, and it's just like it's going through phases, maybe? You know what I mean? Like, oh, it's warming up, but don't worry, it'll cool down. Well, whatever you believe, things are not good right now. We've got floods all over the world. We've got wildfires like crazy all over the world. Like, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of hectares of forest are being burned every day by wildfires. So it's not been a summer of good news. I mean, outside of like the pandemic, which is still trucking along, and now they're talking about a possible fourth wave. But I don't know, it doesn't feel like we've had really good news in a long time, and it certainly doesn't feel like any of the good news is coming soon. So why is a dog trainer on a dog training channel talking about climate change? Like, what does that matter? That's what I want to talk about today, because I think it greatly matters, and maybe in a lot more ways than people are thinking of. So if you can hear right now, Chickpea panting away, and it's not even that hot yet. So I mean, I try and get them out early before the heat. So that's number one. Just when I can walk my dogs matters. We have taken several little trips this summer, like around Ontario in our little camper van, my wife Chris and I. And one of the first trips we did was May long weekend, right after the restrictions were lifted. I think it was the following weekend we went. And we went to Chatham, Ontario, just because we'd never been to Chatham, and we were just looking for somewhere in Ontario that we could go. So we headed up to Chatham, and we got caught in a massive heat wave. And by the way, I guess they're called heat events now. Like, when did that change? My whole life I thought it was called a heat wave. But anyway, so we were in a heat event, and we ended up just staying one night, and then by 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock the next day, we got up early, walked the dogs, and it was already so hot that we couldn't even sit in the shade in a park. So we ended up just coming home to our air-conditioned house. So already, climate change has affected our trips and when we can travel and what we can do. And everything we have to do revolves around the heat and whether we can leave the dogs in the van to go do something, whether we need to be plugged in to have the AC running, which is why we use campgrounds a lot in the summertime. In fact, we went down to Cedar Point a couple of years ago and again got caught in a massive heat wave down there. And after that experience, we just determined that it just doesn't make sense to travel in the summer because the heat is so bad that it basically ruined our whole trip. The whole trip was struggling trying to keep the dogs cool and ourselves cool. And as I get older, I don't handle the heat as well as I used to when I was a younger fella. I used to be able to skateboard all day in the sunshine and the heat. But I'll tell you, when I was younger too, like 20 years ago, a hot day was like 28, 29 degrees. Now a hot day is like 39, 40 degrees. So it's a totally different monster right now, the heat. And Chickpea is a brachycephalic dog, pushed in face, right? So think of like your pugs, your boxers, American bulldogs, Frenchies, all these dogs with these really cute pushed in faces. But that pushed in face is at the detriment of the dog's health. And when I'm out, I mean, I could probably take Ollie and Penny out in a totally different like temperature than Chickpea could sustain, right? Like if it's over a certain temperature, I can't walk the dogs, and I could probably walk Penny and Ollie. It's just Chickpea can't handle the heat. She can't breathe as well, which already makes it more of a struggle in the heat. I also have clients that have black dogs, and I always ask them, how's your dog doing in the heat? Because even Ollie, he's just got those black little patches on him. And on a hot summer day, if I'm petting him, his white fur is fairly cool, and then I just hit those black patches of fur, and they're a lot hotter. Just physically to the touch, I can tell how much hotter they are. So a black dog is going to suffer. So in the future, The reason I'm talking about this today actually is because a UN report just came out on climate change, and they basically said, like, it's over. There's kind of no turning back now. Now the goal is just to mitigate how bad the consequences are. It's not even like, the consequences are here. It's just, you know, they did this big agreement years ago, all the nations, and they said, okay, we got to keep the global temperature from rising higher than 1.5 degrees Celsius ever. And now they're saying, basically, this UN report said, we're going to cross that threshold in the next 15 to 20 years. So sort of the goalpost that they said we can't cross this line ever, we're going to cross that line now in the next 15 to 20 years. And as soon as that report came out, the last couple days, that's all I've been thinking about, to be quite honest. Because I'm suffering right now. Like the last 2 summers, my business has suffered from the heat. I have to cancel a lot of appointments, or if I don't cancel, like this past week alone, I had 2 clients that just emailed me about an hour before their appointment, said I can't bring my dog out. I tried to take him out for a walk. He won't even get up off the ground, it's so hot. So I've had a number of clients cancel this week just because their dogs can't handle the heat, never mind if I could. Not to mention, if I come to train with you, like, your dog's just got to be outside for 1 hour, and we're going to find some shade to train in. But for me, I do 5 appointments a day, so now I got to drag one of my dogs out in the heat for the entire day. And even when we get in the van to drive to the next appointment, it takes 10-15 minutes for the van to cool down with the AC. So like you know, Chickpea or Ollie are going to be out in that heat much, much longer than just your dog. Your dog's going to come out for an hour and then go back into the air conditioning. So it's a lot to ask my dogs. And what that has meant is I've actually had to come home almost every single day in between appointments to either drop a dog off or pick up another dog. Because some appointments I don't need a dog, it's a consultation or something. So I'm adding, right now I've been averaging about 300 extra kilometers of driving a week. We're talking about 4 extra hours of drive time because I've got to bring a dog home, or I've got to come home to pick a dog up. And in the cooler weather, I can just leave the dogs in the van. If I have an hour appointment where I don't need the dogs can just chill in the van and have a nap, and then I come back and off we go, right? Can't do that right now. So, like, what does climate change even mean for dog ownership? Like, I feel like 10 years from now, if the heat gets that much worse, there's just going to be certain breeds you probably won't want to own because they'll just be too difficult. Like, for 3-4 months of the year, you're going to hide this dog in the house because the heat's going to be so bad. Or you're going to do like what I do. You're going to get up at 5 in the morning and get out the door by 6 in the morning to walk your dogs in the summer because by 8 o'clock it's too hot. And then what? You're going to wait until 9, 10 at night? So like your whole day, your whole schedule is going to be dictated by like when and the temperature is hitting and when you can walk your dog, right? Yep. Good job, guys. So I think that climate change is going to affect the type of dogs that will be owned in the future, at least in certain climate zones, right? It's going to affect when you can take your dog out. Like, what if you want to go on a Saturday afternoon, you want to go to the park with your dog, but it's 40 degrees? You can't do that. You can't take your dog out for 2 hours to the park and it's 40 degrees. They're going to collapse. And you've already seen, I've made a number of videos this year on all the tips and tricks, like a spray bottle to keep your dog wet, all kinds of stuff I've said that I've been doing to try and keep our dogs cool. But I'm jumping through hoops, man, because of this weather. And then the cancellations lead to like lost income, right? And it's not just the heat waves, but when you get a heat wave come in like this, then the risk of thunderstorms go up. And that's why you're seeing puddles everywhere, because it was thunder and lightning all morning today, and I'm just getting out now around 9:30 to take the dogs out for their walk because the weather was too bad, and we've been getting all kinds of these random like storms and stuff like that because of the crazy weather. So yeah, just something to think about, like what does dog ownership look like in the future, 10, 15 years from now, if the weather is this extreme? Like, can you even own a dog if you have 3 to 4 months of the year where it's like consistently like in the high 30s? Like, it's difficult. Yeah, you can own your dog, but it's not going to look the same. And you can't just sort of live with your dog the same, right? So anyway, that's sort of my 2 cents. I really wonder how climate change is going to affect my business in the future. I wonder how it's going to affect different breeds, how it's going to affect dog ownership in general, but just some stuff to think about. I know we all have to adapt, but it's a lot harder to adapt to the heat when you own a dog than if you were just on your own. I mean, I plan to own dogs my whole life, but in the last few days, I've actually thought I may not own an American Bulldog again. And I've owned American Bulldogs for years, but I just don't know if I want to own a breed that's going to have this much trouble in the heat when, like, I have to bring my dogs out in the middle of the day. That's when my lessons are booked, so I don't have a choice. So, anyway, that's just sort of my 2 cents. Sorry I didn't have any dog training stuff to talk about today, but I really think this is something we should all think about, like, in the future. And if you're thinking about getting a dog, I don't know, do you want to get a black dog when it's this hot for 3 months of the year? Like, do you want to get a husky? Like, do huskies do very well in the heat? Like, do you know what I mean? So this may affect just the kind of dog you own. Climate change might affect that. So it's all these little nuanced things that I'm thinking about how the heat and climate change is going to affect things over time. Anyway, guys, I'm going to finish up my walk with the dogs, and it's calling for more thunderstorms today, so hopefully I make it home before the bolt of lightning hits. And on that note, and one last thing I will say. It's been 2 weeks since my last video. I've got over 500 videos on my YouTube, and at this point I've just decided I've got a lot of videos up, and each one of these videos takes me about 2 hours to do every week, and I just thought maybe it's time that I just go bi-weekly. So if you're wondering why there's been a gap, I really appreciate everybody who watches the videos and comments on the videos. It's been great, but we're going to go bi-weekly from now on, just so I have a little less to do each week and I can take a week off from making a video. And after over 500 videos, man, there's not always that much to talk about anymore. All right, hey, look at this little kitty cat we got coming up here. Well, that was a brave little kitty cat, wasn't it? All right, guys, we will see you in the next video.